In front of so many people, Simon couldn't back down. He shouted, "What are you talking about? Of course my leg is broken. Do you think I'm pretending? Ow, it hurts so much." Mark's lips twitched in a chilly smile. Then he slowly squatted down and grabbed Simon's leg. Simon was stunned and shouted at the top of his voice, "What are you doing?" The other ruffians also said, "What are you doing? Let go of Cy." Mark said, "Relax, I just want to see if the injury to his leg is serious. Is it really broken?" As he spoke, Mark's hand slowly moved on Simon's leg. Simon struggled for a while, but Mark held him down. Finally, Mark's hand stopped at Simon's calf. Of course, he knew that Simon was pretending. His leg was not broken. Mark secretly exerted force with his hand. There was a cracking sound, and Simon suddenly howled like a mad wolf. "Ouch, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts." Simon was not pretending this time, because he really felt an unbearable pain coming from his calf. He didn't know that Mark had used a hidden force just now to break his leg bone. This time, Simon's leg was really broken. After a while, Simon was covered in sweat from the pain, and his whole body was trembling. What did you do to me? It hurts, it hurts, it hurts," Simon shouted at Mark. The other ruffians were shocked. What did you do to Cy? Do you want to die?" Mark slowly stood up, then clapped his hands and said, "I didn't do anything. I just wanted to check if his leg was really broken, and it seems to be true." He sighed dramatically. "What a pity. This leg may never work properly again." Even an idiot like Simon now understood what was going on. Damn it, his leg hadn't been broken, but this meddlesome fellow had done something to it, and now it was. The pain was unbearable. But Simon couldn't say it out loud because there were so many people in front of him. He had claimed that his leg was broken when Anna's car hit him, so now it was impossible to claim that Mark did it. So Simon could only suffer in silence. His friends were dumbfounded. What was going on? Wasn't Cy pretending with his leg? How could it actually be broken? "Cy, are you all right? Your leg! Your leg!" Simon was extremely angry. He raised his hand and pointed at Mark and scolded loudly. "This person is meddling in other people's business. We can't let him go." Some of his buddies immediately surrounded Mark. The crowd couldn't help but take a few steps back. They broke into a cold sweat, fearing for this young man's safety. Even Anna was a little scared. If Simon's friends fought, this young man would be badly hurt. So Anna hurriedly said to Mark, "Forget about it. You don't have to get involved. I'll give them the $50,000. It's worth it to make this disaster go away." Mark shook his head. "You can't give them this money. You can't give them a single cent." Hearing this, Simon's friends were furious. One of them waved his fist and shouted at Mark, "Dude, do you want to die? Just now you said that my bro's leg was really broken, so she needs to pay up." Mark said, "His leg was broken, but she can't give him a single cent. You see, his leg wasn't damaged by this young lady. It's the result of his many evil deeds. In other words, it serves him right." Mark smiled to himself. What goes around comes around. Simon and the others were furious when they heard this. Simon took a few deep breaths and shouted, "Kill him! He broke my damn leg!" Mark sneered. "Just now, you insisted that this young lady broke your leg. Now you said I did it? So you admit that you were faking it to blackmail her." Mark stared hard at Simon on the ground. Simon's heart trembled when he saw Mark's gaze. What are you trying to do?" Simon's voice was trembling. Mark looked down at him and said, "Since you like to pretend, you need to pretend a little bit more. I don't think one leg is enough. Perhaps you'd like to pretend that your arm got broken too." What are you doing?" Simon cringed as Mark raised his foot. "I'm helping you with your pretending." At that, Mark lowered his foot and stomped on Simon's arm. Everyone heard a cracking sound, followed by Simon's heart-wrenching scream. The crowd understood what was going on. When Simon had said that his leg was broken, he was just pretending, but then his leg had really been broken by this young man in front of him, and now his arm had also been broken. This young man was really ruthless when he attacked Simon, but it also helped to vent everyone's anger. This was a very satisfying way to teach these hooligans a lesson. When she saw Simon lying on the ground and howling like a madman, Anna felt relieved. She couldn't help but look at Mark with admiration. Suddenly, she felt that this young man was filled with an indescribable charm. Anna didn't know that this young man in front of her was the husband of her boss, Nicole. Although Anna was Nicole's subordinate and best friend, she had never actually been introduced to her husband. Nicole had kept Mark away from her friends for the past 5 years. She had never let him go to her company because she felt that he was an embarrassment. At most, she let Mark drop her off or pick her up from work, but she would only let him park outside and wait for her. She would never let him enter the building. There was one time that Anna had seen Mark waiting to pick up Nicole, but at that time, Mark had not been reborn. His face was covered with large patches of black spots. His body was also relatively weak. So Anna's impression of Nicole's husband was not only that he was a wimp, but also an ugly monster. So at this moment, she never would have thought that this charming young man standing in front of her was actually Nicole's husband. Looking at Simon howling on the ground, Mark clapped his hands and said, "One arm and one leg. That looks real to me. It'll be hard for you to put on your act and blackmail innocent people in the future. Next time you want to do this kind of thing, you'll have to get one of your homies to pick you up and put you down in the middle of the road. This way, passing cars will have to stop, and then you can go ahead and blackmail them as usual. That sounds like a good plan, doesn't it?" Simon and the others were so angry that they could barely speak. Simon found his voice quickly, though. "Kill him! Kill him for me!" Simon howled loudly. A few hooligans surrounded Mark once again.
"Dude, do you think you can take on all of us? You must be tired of living. You broke Sai's leg and arm. We're going to break both your legs and both your arms."
After saying that, these hooligans clenched their fists and rushed toward Mark. "Wait." Mark suddenly held up a hand, palm out. The hooligans stopped in their tracks. "Are you guys really going to fight me? Then don't blame me for not reminding you that you guys are no match for me. My strength has increased greatly recently, and I won't hold back. If I really hurt you, I won't be paying you any money or taking you to the hospital," Mark said. These words made the hooligans furious.
"Arrogant bum, who do you think you are? Do you think all of us are afraid of you alone? Cut the crap. Brothers, attack!"
Several hooligans pounced at Mark at the same time. Everyone watching broke out in a cold sweat, worried for Mark, especially Anna. This young man had just taught Simon a lesson, which really made people relieved. But he was only one person after all. How could he beat all these hooligans? But Anna's worry didn't last long, because the fight only lasted for a few seconds. When she looked up again, she found that the ruffians who had rushed over earlier had all fallen to the ground. All of them were holding body parts and groaning. Anna couldn't believe her eyes. She looked for the young man and found that he was standing there, steady as a rock, his eyes cold. But there was a mocking smile on his face. Anna couldn't help but be moved. He was so cool. The surrounding crowd cried out in surprise. They couldn't believe that this young man was so powerful. In just a few seconds, he defeated all those ruffians. After a while, Simon's groaning friends finally picked themselves up. Mark said, "What's wrong? You want to go again?" Forget it. I've proved that none of you are a match for me. You're nothing but insects. I don't want to fight you again because I'm afraid that I'll kill you by mistake. Get lost. Run away as far as you can, and don't let me see any of you in the future." The ruffians looked at each other, dumbfounded. Simon, who was still lying on the ground, was also dumbfounded. He didn't expect this young man to be so strong. He had defeated Simon's buddies in a matter of seconds. But how could Simon let this matter go? This guy had broken one of his legs and one of his arms. So Simon shouted once again, "Blondie, quick, call Xavier and tell him to bring some people. Bring everyone. This guy broke one of my legs and one of my arms. We can't let him get away with it." The hooligan called Blondie quickly took out his phone and dialed a number. Requesting reinforcements? The corner of Mark's mouth rose slightly. Okay, I've got plenty of time today, so I'll play with you guys, because if I don't teach people like you a lesson, you might do something to harm someone else. Seeing that the matter was getting out of hand, Anna walked over and said to Mark, "You should leave quickly. If they really call for a lot of reinforcements, it will be hard to clean up the mess." Some kind-hearted people in the crowd shouted at Mark,
Young man, you should leave quickly. Simon and the others have a group of people backing them. They're very arrogant and powerful. You're no match for them. There are too many of them.
Not only did Mark not leave, he even laughed and shrugged. After a while, 2 golden-colored vans drove up. The vans stopped by the curb, and their doors slammed open. A large group of people emerged with weapons in their hands. They all looked ready for a fight. There were 20 or 30 of them. The leader was called Xavier, and he was the leader of the group backing Simon. "Who dares to bully my man?" Xavier held a wooden stick in one hand and a cigarette in the other. He wore a hat on his head and a pair of sunglasses on his face. He looked very cool. When the crowd saw his aggressive manner, they hurriedly stepped back as if they were afraid that they would be implicated. Xavier walked over with 20 to 30 people under his command. Anna looked at him and thought, "Oh my God, so many people have come, and all of them are armed. I can't believe they're prepared to do this in broad daylight. This is terrible." At this moment, Anna's expression changed. She pushed Mark hard. "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and run. They'll kill you. These people are bad news." Mark said, "It's not me who will get beaten up. Don't worry." When Simon saw Xavier, it was as if he saw his savior. He shouted at the top of his voice,
Xavier, save me. He broke my arm and my leg. You have to avenge me.
Xavier walked over to take a look at Simon, who was still lying on the ground. "Who did this to you?" Xavier's tone was cold. Although Anna was a little scared, she didn't want to make things worse. She hurriedly said, "This is all a huge misunderstanding, okay? Your guy here accidentally bumped into my car. How about this? Just like I said before, I'll pay you $50,000, okay? And then we can just forget about this matter." Xavier slowly turned his eyes to Anna. When he saw Anna's pretty face and sexy figure, a lustful smile crossed his face. "Little woman, you're quite bold, aren't you? That's good, but it's not enough. You hit my man with your car. This is no small matter. Do you think you can just pay me some money and I'll forget about it? Any other day, I might agree. But since you're such a beauty, I can let you go, and instead of paying me back, you can play with me. Perhaps if I'm satisfied with you, I'll really let this matter go." As Xavier spoke, he stretched his hand toward Anna's face. But before his hand could reach Anna's face, his wrist was suddenly grabbed by another hand. Xavier was stunned. He looked at the person and saw a young man with a firm expression staring back at him. "Do you want to die?" Xavier was furious. Mark looked at him with a mocking smile, then said, "I'm the one who crippled your man. If you have the guts, come at me, not her. What kind of pathetic worm bullies a woman?" A trace of ruthlessness flashed across Xavier's face. He sized Mark up. "Dude, who are you? Who do you work for? Why don't you tell me your name?" Xavier said. He wasn't as impulsive as Simon. If this guy could beat up the people under Xavier's command, then he must be extraordinary. Mark said, "You don't have the right to know." After Mark said that, he suddenly let go. Xavier took 2 steps back. One of his wrists had turned green. "All right, since you don't want to tell me your name, show me what you got." Xavier suddenly waved his hand. The 20 to 30 men behind him immediately raised their weapons, ready to attack Mark at the slightest nod from their boss. "Wait," Mark suddenly said. "Oh, you're afraid now, are you?" Xavier chuckled. "Well, call me master and get lost, but this pretty woman beside you has to come with me." Mark sneered. He looked at Xavier and the people behind him like he was looking at insects. Then he said, "To me, you lot are nothing but bugs. I really can't be bothered to fight with you." Hearing this, Xavier was so angry that he almost choked.
"Bugs? Who are you calling bugs, you ignorant fool?"
Mark said. "Do you know Ken?" Xavier was stunned. He didn't understand why Mark suddenly asked this question.
"Ken? You mean Ken from the west side of the city?"
"Yes, that's him. How are you compared to Ken?" Mark asked.
Xavier said, "He's just like me. He controls the west side of the city, and I'm in charge of the north. We don't interfere in each other's business, but if it comes to a real fight, I'm not afraid of him."
So your power is on par with Ken's. Then how are you compared to Julius?" Mark asked again. Xavier and the others were stunned when they heard Julius's name.
How can a little prick like you casually mention the name of Julius Darren? I'm strong, but I know my own limitations. Julius is the underground king of California. I'm not that powerful."
At this point, Xavier suddenly realized that something was wrong. His face grew stern. Then he asked,
"Why are you asking all this? Are you stalling for time?"
Mark ignored his question. "So you're afraid of Julius, are you? That's good. Since Julius can solve this problem, I don't need to do it myself," Xavier said.
"Moron, don't waste my time. Unless you kneel down before me to apologize, you're going to die today."
Mark said, "I've already said that all of you are bugs and don't have the right to talk to me, let alone fight with me. How about this? I'll call Julius to talk to you." Hearing this, Xavier and the others frowned.
"What did you say? You were going to get Julius to talk to me? Who do you think you are? What influence do you have that you can get such an important guy to come when you call?"
Mark said, "I don't know if he'll come when I call, but I can find out. I'll call and ask."
"Call and ask? How would a moron like you have Julius's phone number? Even if you did, do you think you're entitled to call him? Would an important and powerful man like Julius pick up a phone call from a small fry like you?"
Xavier and the others burst into laughter.
"This young fellow seems to be very familiar with Julius. Isn't he crazy?"
Mark didn't say anything. He took out his phone and dialed Julius's number. The call was quickly picked up. Julius's respectful voice came from the other end.
"Mr. Johnson, I'm flattered you found the time to call me. Really flattered."
Mark said, "Julius, don't talk nonsense. I've got something I need your help with because I'm busy and I don't have time to waste." Julius said,
"If you need anything, just tell me. Mr. Johnson, it is my honor to be able to help you."
Mark said, "I'm surrounded by a group of gangsters at the junction of First Street and Future Road. These gangsters want to fight, but you know me and what I can do. They're all worthless insects in my eyes, and I don't care to fight with such a bunch of ants. It's a disgrace to my identity, so I'd like you to come over here and help me deal with them." When Julius heard this, he instantly became furious.
"Damn it, who is so bold and blind as to dare offend you, Mr. Johnson? I think this person must be tired of living."
Mark looked at Xavier and said lightly, "The leader of these hooligans seemed to be called Xavier, and another one is called Simon. You know them, right?"
"Xavier? You mean the Xavier from the North End? Mr. Johnson, this guy used to be one of my subordinates. I heard that he took control of a small piece of land in the north of the city 2 years ago. It's just a small area with no prospects. I didn't expect that this guy would be so arrogant as to dare to provoke you. Don't worry, Mr. Johnson. Leave this to me. I'll come immediately."
Mark looked up at Xavier. "Julius will be here soon. You guys just wait here." Xavier sneered and said,
"Are you addicted to acting cool? Who knows who you just called? How would I know if it was Julius? It could have been your mother."
Xavier still didn't believe that Mark would really call Julius. Julius was a godlike figure in his mind, a true big shot. "What's wrong? You don't believe that I called Julius?" Mark shook his head helplessly and said to Julius on the other side of the phone, "Julius, this Xavier doesn't believe that I'm calling you. He says you're my mother." Julius scolded over the phone.
"This fool is courting death. Mr. Johnson, give the phone to Xavier."
Mark handed the phone to Xavier and said, "Julius wants to talk to you." Xavier sneered.
Pretending? You're still pretending?
Pretending? Well, I guess you'll know the truth after you answer the phone, Mark said. Xavier hesitated for a moment, then reached out his hand to pick up the phone. As soon as he put it beside his ear, Julius's voice came from the other side.
Xavier, haven't you grown up yet? You don't even respect me, Julius. Mr. Johnson is a friend of mine. How dare you annoy him?
When Xavier heard Julius's voice, his face turned pale. Only now did he accept that the person on the other end of the line was indeed Julius Darren. He felt weak at the knees.
Julius, it really is you. I'm sorry, Julius. I didn't expect that this fine young man was a friend of yours.
Julius said,
Cut the crap. I'm on my way. Stay put.
After saying that, Julius hung up the phone. Xavier was completely dumbfounded. When he looked at Mark again, his eyes were filled with fear. This seemingly ordinary young man actually had such great power. With just a single order, even a great figure like Julius had done his bidding.
Bro, I was wrong. I was a fool. Please spare me. Please don't let Julius come here.
Xavier pleaded with Mark. Mark put away his phone and said indifferently, Too late. Julius is already on his way. In just a few minutes, Julius arrived with 2 bodyguards. Julius was a mighty and domineering person, but when he saw Mark, they shook hands, and Julius said,
Mr. Johnson, my apologies. This ex-minion of mine has caused you trouble. I'll deal with him.
Then Julius turned to look at Xavier.
Xavier, it has been a few years since we last met. You have really grown up.
Xavier was so scared that he almost wet his pants.
Julius, please, this is all a misunderstanding,
Xavier said with a trembling voice.
Misunderstanding my ass. You dared to offend Mr. Johnson. I can't save you.
Julius shook his head. When he turned to Mark again, his face was creased by a flattering smile.
Don't worry, Mr. Johnson. I'll take Xavier away now and teach him a good lesson. I promise you'll be pleased with the result.
Julius was, after all, a gangster. He naturally had his own ways of teaching people a lesson, but his bloody methods weren't for use in public. That was why he planned to take Xavier away.
Mr. Johnson, do you want Xavier to live or die?
Julius asked casually. Upon hearing this, Xavier's soul was almost scared out of his body. Only now did he understand that his cheap life was now completely in Mark's hands. He also knew that with Julius's means, ending his life was a piece of cake. Xavier begged Mark for mercy.
Sir, please spare me. I won't do it again,
Mark said to Julius. Xavier and his gang have been blackmailing people in this area for a while now. This is really detestable, so you can decide how you want to punish him. After all, he was your subordinate in the past. Julius nodded.
I understand. Rest assured, Mr. Johnson. I will deal with him appropriately.
Xavier's face turned deathly pale. Suddenly, he thought of something and stood up abruptly. He ran to Simon and kicked him hard. He cursed loudly.
Simon, you have killed me. You couldn't piss off just anyone, could you? No, you had to piss off Mr. Johnson. And it wasn't enough for you to seal your own fate. You had to drag me in and seal mine too. Take this.
So saying, Xavier lifted his foot and kicked Simon again, hard on his broken leg. Simon screamed in pain and kept on screaming. Julius ordered the 2 bodyguards to take Xavier away. The 2 bodyguards immediately grabbed Xavier and threw him into Julius's car. Julius looked at the dozens of Xavier's subordinates milling around. Then he said,
What are you waiting for? All of you get the hell out of here. Keep your eyes on me from now on. If you dare offend Mr. Johnson again, what happens to your boss will happen to you.
The dozens of underlings were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. Julius shook hands with Mark. Mr. Johnson, I'll take Xavier away now and teach him a good lesson. What are you going to do? Do you need my help with anything else? Mark waved his hand and said, I'm good, thanks. You can go. Right. Julius nodded and left. The dozens of underlings that Xavier had brought with him also dispersed. Anna, who was watching from the side, was dumbfounded. She felt that this young man in front of her was very charming. Even the big shot, Julius, did what he wanted. This young man was very mysterious. Mark said to Anna, The matter has been resolved. You can leave now. Anna said, Thank you very much for helping me. Can you give me your contact details? I'd like to treat you to a meal someday to say thank you. No need. It's a small matter. Mark rejected her directly. Then he turned around and waved at the surrounding crowd. He said, All right, everyone, the show's over. Anna felt that this young man was really in charge of things. Thinking of him, her heart beat a little faster as she got into her Audi and drove away. The crowd also gradually dispersed. Fortunately, it was not a main road. It was just a small road. Otherwise, the traffic would have been blocked. Mark looked at Simon, who was still lying on the ground moaning and groaning, as well as at his subordinates. Then he said, You should be punished for doing such a wicked thing as blackmail. But I've already broken one of your arms and one of your legs. I've taught you a lesson. If you dare to do it again, your punishment won't be as simple as losing an arm or a leg. Simon and the others listened to Mark's words and looked at the ground, not daring to breathe. What are you all waiting for? Hurry up and carry him away. If you delay any longer, he won't be able to keep his arm and leg, Mark said again. Simon's subordinates went to lift Simon up, but at this moment, someone shouted, The cops are coming! Mark was stunned when he heard the sirens. Then a police car drove up and stopped in front of him. Someone in the crowd had called the police. Mark frowned. He really didn't want to deal with the cops. It wasn't over. Someone had called the police and said that the matter was very serious and that there were dozens of people fighting in broad daylight. Captain Jones had personally brought people over. Officer Worth had also come. When Officer Worth saw Mark, she was stunned. Why are you here? She asked Mark. When Captain Jones saw Mark, a cold glint flashed through his eyes. Last time at LAU, during the fish venom incident, Captain Jones had made a promise to the chief of police. He promised to set up a special unit to investigate, solve the case as soon as possible, and catch the murderer. But he didn't expect that the case would be solved by Mark, and all the limelight would be stolen by him. Captain Jones wasn't happy that Mark had shown him up. Now that he'd seen Mark, he gave his orders without hesitation. Gathering people to fight in broad daylight, disrupting social order, causing traffic jams. All of you are coming with us. Then his officers stepped forward and held Simon and his subordinates down. Simon was really unlucky today. He had set out to blackmail others, but in the end, his arm and leg were broken by Mark. Now he was going to be arrested and taken to the police department. So he shouted loudly, Please don't arrest me. I'm innocent. It was that guy who attacked me. Arrest him. 2 officers actually walked up to Mark and tried to arrest him. Mark said coldly, What do you want? You want to arrest me too? Captain Jones said, What else do you think? Cut the crap. Come with us downtown. Mark said, It was Simon and the others who blackmailed a young lady. I didn't do anything. What right do you have to arrest me? Captain Jones said, Simon's arm and leg were crippled by you. You deliberately hurt him. How dare you say that you didn't do anything, Officer Worth hurriedly said, Captain, this matter has not been fully investigated yet. Arresting him is not good. Captain Jones said, What's not good about it? I have the final say here. Take him away. Wait. Mark raised a hand and made a gesture to stop him. Then he looked at Captain Jones. Are you sure you want to take me away? Mark said carefully. What? Do you think I'm joking with you? Captain Jones said. You are using your official position to get personal revenge. Mark directly exposed Captain Jones's thoughts. It's because I solved the matter of those women being infected by venom at LAU last week, isn't it? I stole the limelight from you, Captain Jones. That's why you have a grudge against me. Who would have thought that a dignified police captain would be so narrow-minded? The reason I showed you up was that you couldn't do it. Don't tell me you have a tantrum every time someone does something better than you. In front of so many people, Captain Jones's thoughts were exposed by Mark. He was instantly enraged. Jones waved his hands and said, "I can't be bothered listening to your nonsense. If there's anything you need to say, you can say it at the precinct. Take him away." "Wait," Mark said again. "You can take me away, but first I have an important matter to deal with. I can't afford to delay it." "I don't care what you want," Captain Jones growled. "This important thing is related to your chief," Mark said. Hearing this, Captain Jones and Officer Worth looked at each other in surprise. Captain Jones frowned and asked again,
What did you say?
"I said that the important thing that I'm about to do now is related to your chief," Mark repeated. Captain Jones looked skeptical.
Stop trying to scare me. What does this have to do with our chief?"
Mark said, "I have an appointment with him at my house. He's coming to get some special medicine." Captain Jones and Officer Worth looked at each other. Then Captain Jones said, "You have an appointment with our chief."
Do you think I'll believe a lie like that? How would someone like you know our chief? You said he is coming to get medicine from you? What medicine?
"Medical infusion." Mark spat out the two words, and Captain Jones smiled again.
Medical infusion? I think you have read too many immortal enhancement novels. How can there be any medicinal infusion in this world? Such a thing doesn't exist. This is simply nonsense. Why aren't you taking him away?"
"Captain Jones." Mark was about to lose his patience. He raised his voice and said in a serious tone, "Your chief is using the medicine from me to save someone. If it is delayed, you won't want to bear the consequences." Officer Worth realized that Mark didn't sound like he was lying. She said to Captain Jones, "Captain, maybe he really does know the chief. I think it is better to be careful about this. How about calling the chief to verify it?" Captain Jones said disdainfully, "I'm not calling the chief just because this person wants to find a way off the hook. So he said he knows the chief, but he doesn't. He's just trying to scare us into letting him go. I've seen this type of thing many times. Besides, you know that the chief is home today. When he's taking a day off, his work phone is turned off, and we don't even know his private number." "I know it," Mark said. Captain Jones and Officer Worth both looked at him. "What?" "I said, I know the private number of the chief of police." Mark repeated his words. Captain Jones was almost amused.
"Kid, is there no limit to your bragging? If we don't have his private phone number, there's no way you're going to have it. Do you think I'll believe that?"
Mark reached into his pocket and took out the business card that he'd gotten from Greg Wyatt. There were clearly two phone numbers printed on the card. One was Greg's work number, and the other was his private number. Mark said, "I'll call your chief now on his private number." As he spoke, Mark took out his phone and dialed the private number on the business card without hesitation. Soon, the call connected. "Hello, Mark. Where are you now? I'll come to get the medicine. You don't have to come to me. Just tell me your current location." Mark deliberately pressed the speaker button. "Hi, Greg. I'm now at the corner of First Street and Future Road. I was waiting for you to come and get the medicine, but your subordinate, Captain Jones, insists on handcuffing me and taking me to the station. So I'm afraid I can't wait for you here, which means you won't be able to get the medicine either. Your father's recovery will be delayed and his condition may get worse, but there's nothing I can do. I have no choice but to go with Captain Jones." When Greg heard this, he was stunned. "Mark, what exactly is going on? You said that Captain Jones wants to arrest you? Is there a misunderstanding? How about this? Stay where you are. I'll be there shortly." Oh, there's no need to stir yourself. Captain Jones can't wait to arrest me and take me to the police station, so why don't you go directly there and we'll meet you? After saying that, Mark hung up the phone. After hanging up the phone, Mark took the initiative to extend his hands to Captain Jones. Come on, Captain Jones. Didn't you want to catch me? Let's go. Your chief will meet us at the police station. Captain Jones's expression immediately changed. It was a little uncertain. Officer Worth said, Captain, he does know the chief. We heard them on the phone just now. Chief Wyatt seems to be coming to get medicine from him. I know his father has not been in good health. The chief probably wants to treat his father. He won't be happy if we do anything to compromise his father's health. Mark said, What's wrong, Captain Jones? Don't you want to arrest me? I thought you wanted to handcuff me. Why aren't you saying anything now? Are you afraid? Captain Jones saw Mark's proud look and made up his mind. Afraid? I've never been afraid. That's good. Then hurry up and take me away. Come on. Mark was deliberately taunting Captain Jones. Sure enough, Captain Jones gritted his teeth and said, Cuff him and take him away. With a snap, Mark was cuffed. Then he was pushed by 2 police officers toward the police car. Officer Worth immediately felt that something was wrong. Captain, don't be rash. If we arrest him and delay the chief's father's treatment, with the chief's violent temper, I'm afraid that... Don't worry so much. I can't stand this guy's smug look. Captain Jones waved his hand and told his men to handcuff Simon and his men. The group quickly returned to the police station. Mark sat down in the waiting room. All right, I think this place is pretty good. I'll wait for your chief here. Officer Worth immediately attracted the attention of many people. She quickly went up and smiled at Mark. She said, How can you wait here? This is the place where we bring everyone. How about this? I'll take you to our chief's office to wait. I'll uncuff you first. Officer Worth was really afraid that the chief would blame them when he got there, because she knew very well that the chief's father was very important to him. If he was offended because Mark was handcuffed, the consequences would be very serious. Don't hurry to take the handcuffs off. I don't mind them. Mark turned his body to the side and refused to let Officer Worth remove his handcuffs. Officer Worth was helpless and could only say to Captain Jones, Captain, say something. If the chief comes and sees this scene, I think the 2 of us will have to bear the consequences. Captain Jones was also a little worried, although he was still very arrogant. The only person he was really afraid of was their chief. Captain Jones had solved many major cases and made a lot of arrests, but if he made a mistake, with their chief's hot temper, Jones could lose his job in seconds. But Captain Jones wasn't willing to submit to Mark. At this moment, a tall and mighty middle-aged man with a righteous aura walked up to them. Chief, Officer Worth said in a hurry. The person who had arrived was none other than the Chief of Police, Greg Wyatt. Chief Wyatt walked straight in and saw Mark, who was sitting there handcuffed. He frowned slightly and quickly went over to greet him. Mark, what's going on? Why are you still handcuffed? Mark said, Greg, look, this is the outcome of doing good deeds. Mark shook the handcuffs on his hands. Then Mark said, Greg, Future Road is not far from here, but there are often cases of blackmail in the area. This is not the first nor the second time it's happened. Either the criminal does not care about your officers, or your officers aren't doing their duty. The criminal who was blackmailing was arrested several times, but he always got released. So he grew fearless and blackmailed a young woman, and then me directly. Today, when I ran into him, I really couldn't stand it, so I decided to teach that blackmailer a lesson. I didn't expect Captain Jones to be so unreasonable, though. He just handcuffed me. If good Samaritans get arrested every time they try to help, I'm afraid that no one will dare to do anything good in the future, because not only will those who do good deeds suffer the criminal's revenge, but they'll also be arrested. Neither side will be able to please the other. Chief Wyatt frowned. He turned his eyes to Captain Jones and said sternly, Captain Jones, what's going on? Captain Jones started to explain. Chief, listen to me. What else do you want to say? Uncuff Mark first. Is he a criminal? You handcuffed him without asking any questions. Is that true? Chief Wyatt looked furious. Captain Jones knew how powerful his superior was, so he didn't dare contradict him. He quickly gave Officer Worth a look and signaled her to uncuff Mark. Officer Worth was about to walk over to him when Mark said, "Don't. Whoever put these handcuffs on me can open them." Chief Wyatt said, Come, Mark. It's my subordinate who is incompetent. You're an adult who doesn't care about petty people. I'll personally open them for you." "Don't. You're the chief of police. How can I trouble you?" "Greg, Captain Jones insisted on me being cuffed, so Captain Jones should be the one to release me." Chief Wyatt felt a little awkward, but he glared at Captain Jones and jerked his head in Mark's direction. Captain Jones didn't dare to disobey the chief's orders. He took the key from Officer Worth and walked to Mark. Mark turned to the side and deliberately drawled, "Captain Jones, are you just going to uncuff me? Is that all?" Captain Jones suppressed his anger and forced himself to ask, "What do you mean?" "Don't you think you should apologize to me?" Mark asked sweetly. "Don't push it." Captain Jones snarled. "Fine, don't apologize to me. Leave the cuffs on," Mark said. "You—" Captain Jones was speechless. He knew that Mark was deliberately making fun of him, but he couldn't say anything in front of the chief. He knew that if he didn't apologize to this guy today, he was afraid that the matter wouldn't end well. So Captain Jones forced himself to say, "Sorry, I was reckless today. I apologize." "Louder, please. I can't quite hear you," Mark said. Captain Jones swallowed a mouthful of saliva and cleared his throat a little. Mark repeated that sentence again. When the other officers at the station saw this scene, they were all stunned. They really didn't expect that Captain Jones, unbearably proud and with no respect for anyone other than the chief, would actually apologize to someone. Captain Jones finally gave in and apologized to Mark. Mark then said, "That's more like it. All right, on account of your sincere apology, I forgive you." After saying that, Mark stretched his handcuffed hands forward. "Come on." After the handcuffs were unlocked, the chief respectfully invited Mark to his office. Again, he thanked Mark from the bottom of his heart, because Mark had really cured his father's illness. Ever since he took Mark's energy return infusion, his father's symptoms had been alleviated a lot. Now he could even get out of bed and walk. Now, Mark gave the chief some more energy return infusion. He said that after taking this medicine, his father's illness would be completely cured. Chief Wyatt expressed his gratitude once again, then respectfully said goodbye to Mark. After Mark left, Chief Wyatt called Captain Jones to his office. Captain Jones stood there, not daring to breathe. He looked at his superior, who was pacing in front of him with his hands behind his back. "Captain Jones, you have become more and more daring recently. You actually handcuffed the man who saved my father's life. If I hadn't arrived in time today, would you have detained Mark and then tortured him?" Chief Wyatt said. "Chief, how would I dare? This kid said he knew you, and I thought he was lying, but how did this guy become your savior? Isn't that a bit of an exaggeration?" Captain Jones said. Chief Wyatt frowned. "Do you think so? I don't think it's exaggerated at all. Let me tell you, this Mark Johnson is a miracle worker with miraculous medicine. It was precisely this medicine that cured my father's chronic illness. Today, Mark was on his way to deliver the medicine to me. I didn't expect that he would be handcuffed by you." Upon hearing these words, Captain Jones was startled because he knew that the chief's father had been injured on the job several years earlier. He'd never been cured. As he got older, the pain became worse. Now the chief was actually saying that Mark, the upstart, had provided a miraculous medicine to cure the chief's father's back pain. If it could really cure his father's back pain, then it would really be a miracle cure. Captain Jones muttered to himself, Last time at LAU, this Mark guy easily broke the fish venom and found out who was behind it. Jones didn't expect this guy to be a miracle worker too. But thinking about it, Captain Jones was still unconvinced. He forced himself to argue. But Chief, that kid crippled Simon on purpose. Intentionally hurt him? Chief Wyatt snorted and stopped pacing to stand in front of Captain Jones. A pair of cold and fierce eyes stared at him, making Captain Jones feel a little scared. Captain Jones, do you really think that I, the Chief of Police, am an idiot? Don't you think I know what you do behind my back? How could that Simon and his gang continue blackmailing people? After someone called the police, Simon was arrested and then released. Who was behind that? I think you know better than me. Captain Jones, you have indeed made great contributions since you became a police officer, but that doesn't mean you can be proud of all you've done. I'm talking about the illegal things, and a few others that I won't mention. I'm tired of protecting you. Once this matter gets out, I think you, Captain Jones, will be done for. Captain Jones broke out in a cold sweat. He stared at the floor and stammered. Chief, I was wrong. I won't do it again. The chief grunted. He stuck a finger in Captain Jones's chest. Mark is our family's savior. Don't touch him. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to fire you and make sure you never work as a cop again. Do you understand? In the morning, Mark received a call from Marcy.
Mr. Johnson, the private auction that I mentioned to you last time will be held at the Grand Hotel this afternoon. If you're interested, you can go and take a look. Some of the richest and most powerful people in California will gather together to buy and sell some very special items, including famous paintings and antiques. There are also supposed to be some 1,000-year-old herbs there, which you said you needed for your infusions.
Mark said, Yes, they're just what I need. Thank you for letting me know. After lunch, Marcy came to pick Mark up personally and drove to the entrance of the Grand Hotel. This auction happens annually. It's a way for powerful families to show off and exchange some of their treasures. My grandfather will also come today, Marcy said. Marcy's phone rang, and she answered it. With her hand over the receiver, she said to Mark, Mr. Johnson, you can go in and sit for a while. I'll go and pick up my grandfather. The auction will start in half an hour. Mark nodded. Marcy turned the car around to go and pick up Red Green. Mark walked into the hotel alone. It was one of the finest 5-star hotels in LA. The interior was very luxurious. The lobby of the hotel was magnificent, with a valuable crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling. The hotel staff saw that Mark had just followed Miss Green in, so they respectfully welcomed him. They also told him that the auction was going to be held in the conference room on the top floor of the hotel. Mark took the elevator directly to the top floor. The entire room had been recently renovated. There were already a few people scattered about inside, but not many yet. The men were all dressed in suits, looking polite and courteous. The women were all dressed in formal attire, looking noble and elegant. Because the auction had not started yet, the people inside were all sitting and chatting, drinking wine and tasting the delicacies prepared by the organizers for the guests. Mark had just walked in when he was immediately noticed by 2 people. Is that Mark? Hank Seamus said in surprise when he saw Mark across the room. What? Liam Lamb asked his friend. Hank pointed at Mark and said, I know that guy. Liam followed the line of Hank's finger. When he saw Mark, he frowned slightly. Him? Hank asked. You know him too? Sure, isn't that Master Mark, the guy who made a name for himself at LAU? A cold expression emerged on Liam's face. Last time at LAU, his sister, Tamsin, was struck by the fish venom. It was this so-called Master Mark who solved the problem and saved Tamsin's life. But Liam didn't like Mark, because the guy had punched him and almost killed him. Although his father forced him to apologize to Master Mark, he'd always held a grudge against the guy. He's not only your acquaintance, but also mine. Because of him, my father slapped me in front of so many people.
He even forced me to kneel down and apologize to him. Just thinking about it makes me furious, Liam said. Is that so? Well, you're not the only guy who has a bone to pick with this Mark guy. I do too. Last time at Pacific Coast Karaoke, he humiliated me. He's detestable, and I'd love to get revenge on him, Hank said. Mark had humiliated Frank and his friend Hubert, so they both hated him. Hank and Liam had never thought that they would meet Mark here. Hank said, "Why is this guy here? This is a private auction. He's just a useless son-in-law, so how could he get an invitation?" That's right. Even if there was no auction here, this is a 5-star hotel. It is one of the more important properties of the Lamb family. How did he get in? Liam said. The two of them had been staring at Mark and whispering to each other, but Mark didn't notice them at all. Mark didn't know any of the people here, so after arriving, he sat quietly at a round table. Hank said, "No matter how he got in, I don't like him," Liam said. "What a coincidence. I don't like him either." Then Liam snapped his fingers. "Since you don't like him, you should kill him. I've never been afraid of anyone, let alone a puny guy like him. So what if he hit me last time I was at LAU? I was only hit because I was careless. If I hit him, he'd know who the boss is." Hank said, "Of course, you want to kill someone you don't like. It's just that this Mark guy is very good at fighting. Even Julius is no match for him. You can't look down on him." Liam snorted. "Who does he think he is? Even if he's really good at fighting. So what if I'm no match for him? I bet he couldn't defeat my master, Anson Cutter." Hank was stunned. Anson Cutter? The #1 expert in California? Anson Cutter? He is your master? Anson Cutter is the past leader of the Octopole group. He's famous all over California. Liam smiled proudly. "He told me to keep a low profile, so very few people know that he's my master." "Does that mean your master is coming today?" Hank asked. Liam nodded. "I sent an invitation to him. I'm prepared to bid on a few things that he likes and give them to him at the auction. If nothing unexpected happens, he should be here in another 10 minutes. Hearing this, Hank suddenly clapped his hands. His tone was filled with excitement. "Anson Cutter is coming here. With him here, will we still be afraid of that brat Mark? An expert like your master would probably only need to snap his fingers, and he could beat that guy until he cries for his mother." "That's right," Liam grinned. "Mark is nothing to my master. Master Anson can end his life with one punch." "Then what are we waiting for? Let's go and sort him out," Hank urged. The two of them exchanged a look. Then they puffed out their chests and raised their heads, swaggering toward Mark. Mark was feeling bored when he suddenly saw two people sitting in front of him. The two of them looked familiar. He took a closer look and recognized the slightly shorter one on the left. It was Hank, a student at LAU. Mark's sister-in-law, Kelly, was his classmate. Last time at Pacific Coast Karaoke, this guy had offended Julius, who had almost killed him. The tall young man on the right was called Liam, the arrogant and domineering Tamsin Lamb's brother. Mark remembered that Liam had offended him at LAU, so Mark had hit him with his fire thunder palm. If it wasn't for Mark holding back some of his strength and showing mercy, Liam would be dead now. When Liam's father, Roger, had shown up, he knew that Mark was a person he couldn't afford to offend. So he slapped his son in front of him, and even forced his son to kneel down and apologize to Mark. After that, Mark was prepared to let the matter go. "Hello, aren't you Master Mark?" Liam was the first to speak. He spoke in a strange tone. Mark raised his head and looked at him for a moment before turning his gaze elsewhere, as if the two people in front of him didn't exist. Liam was furious. He slammed his hand on the table and pointed at Mark and scolded. "Who do you think you are? Why are you putting on airs in front of me? I'm talking to you. Are you pretending not to hear me? Do you really think you're special when I call you master?" Only then did Mark slowly turn his eyes to him.
He sized him up with disdain and said, "Liam, isn't it? It seems that the slap your father gave you at LAU didn't change you at all."
You...
Liam was so angry that his face turned red. Mark said, "Last time we met, you knelt down in front of me and promised me that you would never offend me again. It was because of your father, Roger. I didn't slap you to death, but I didn't expect you to have such a bad memory. Once a loser, always a loser, I guess."
You... shut up!
Liam became even more furious. There were so many people at the auction. Liam was a man who cared about saving face a lot, and he was used to being arrogant and domineering. There was no way he could tolerate Mark humiliating him like this.
How dare you speak to me like that? Do you really think that you're great just because you know the Fire Thunder Palm? Do you really think that I'm afraid of you?
Liam said. Liam's voice was very loud, and it immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the auction hall. Hank hurriedly advised in a low voice, "Calm down, bro. Don't get angry. He's not worth it. If you lose your cool, everyone will laugh at us. Besides, this auction is organized by your family. It would be a disgrace to them if anything were to happen." Liam narrowed his eyes and suppressed his anger. After that, he sneered and said,
"That's right. I'm angry because of such a small fry. Hey, Mark, you're nothing to me. I don't take you seriously."
Liam realized that it was not good to cause a scene at the auction held by his family. So instead, he rolled his eyes and came up with a plan to deal with Mark. Liam looked at Mark furiously, but he had a plan and decided on another way to humiliate Mark.
"It's not my place to argue with people like you."
Liam adjusted his clothes and spoke in a pretentious manner.
"But there are some things that I need to know. How did you get in here for start? This auction is for the elite of our city. A loser like you. I don't think you have the right to enter such a high-end place, do you?"
Liam said, his tone full of sarcasm. Hank stuck his nose in and said, "I bet he snuck in." Liam narrowed his eyes and said to Mark,
"You, a bum, sneaked into our high-end auction. What are your plans?"
"He didn't come here to steal things, did he?" Hank said. "Because other than stealing, I really can't think of any other reason he would be here." Hank suddenly shouted in an exaggerated manner, "All the people who came to participate in the auction are worth millions, if not billions of dollars. Any item here is worth a lot of money. This guy can't afford expensive items like that, so he must really be casing the joint. Liam, quickly take a look and see if there's anything missing. All right, where's your watch?" Liam lowered his head and looked at his wrist. Suddenly, he thought of something.
"My Rolex was a little dirty. I took it off to clean it and put it on this table, but it's gone now,"
Liam said and looked at the table in front of Mark. Hank pretended to be shocked and shouted, "Yeah, Liam, after you cleaned the Rolex, you left it on the table while we went to get a drink. When we got back, it was gone."
"That's the latest Rolex watch. It's more than $1 million,
Liam said. Hank turned his eyes to Mark. "That watch must have been stolen by you, right? Because after the two of us left, you were the only one at this table, and no one else at this auction would steal other people's things."
"All right, you actually stole something from me. Liam, should I say that you're ignorant, or should I say that you're stupid?"
Liam looked at Mark with disdain. Mark stood up and looked at them with a smirk. "Laugh? You can actually laugh? You stole Liam's Rolex. It was worth $1 million. Do you know what this means? If we call the police, you'll be arrested for theft," Hank said. Mark couldn't help but laugh. He looked at the two people in front of him and felt that they were as funny as clowns. Mark said, "It's a pity that the two of you don't go into the entertainment industry with your acting skills. The last guy who won an Oscar is nothing compared to the two of you." Liam didn't want to waste any more words. He pointed at Mark and said,
"You sneaked into the auction to steal things. You really have no sense of shame."
Hank said loudly to the people who were watching the auction, "Hey everyone, we have a thief in our midst. He stole Liam's Rolex. Everyone check to see if you're missing anything." A security guard who heard the noise ran over. "Mr. Lamb, Mr. Seamus, what happened here?" As soon as the security guard opened his mouth, Liam slapped his face. He scolded loudly.
How dare you ask me what happened? What are you security guards doing? You let a little punk slip in and steal my Rolex watch."
The security guard was frightened when he heard that. What? Mr. Lamb's Rolex watch was stolen? That was an incredibly expensive watch. Who would be so bold? The security guard followed Liam's gaze and looked at Mark. "It's you? How dare you sneak into our Grand Hotel and steal?" The security guard went forward to grab Mark. He shouted loudly, "You really have guts. You stole from the son of the owner of the Grand Hotel. We will call the police and arrest you. You'll be behind bars within the hour." But just as the security guard's hand reached Mark, Mark grabbed his wrist and pushed him. The security guard grunted and fell to the ground. The surrounding people pointed and gasped. Mark raised his head and looked at Hank and Liam. He secretly shook his head. He'd come to the auction today at Marcy's suggestion, and she'd be here soon. He didn't want to cause any trouble, but he had no choice. Some people just couldn't leave him alone. Mark said, "I walked in openly. I did not sneak. Which one of you saw me stealing? How dare you slander me? Have you thought about the consequences? If you think I stole something, show me the evidence." Liam sneered and said,
"If I say you're a thief, then you're a thief. I don't need any evidence. You know why? Because this is the property of my family, and you, in my view, you're nothing but an ant."
Liam's words were clear that he was framing Mark. He was extremely arrogant, and in broad daylight, he'd actually turned white into black. Seeing that Mark didn't say anything, Liam thought that his words had scared him. He felt even more proud. He raised his chin, raised his voice, and said,
"You sneaked into the auction and stole my watch. Should I hand you over to the police? Or should I call someone to beat you up and throw you out? I should do both, but I'm not such a ruthless person. Because you saved my sister before. As long as you slap yourself and kneel down to apologize to me, I might still spare you," Liam said.
Last time at LAU, Liam was slapped by his father in front of so many people. He was even forced to kneel down and apologize to Mark. Today, he'd make Mark slap himself and apologize to him. It was the perfect way to get revenge. After hearing his words, Mark's expression became very cold. He stared at Liam's proud face for a few seconds. Then he said, You want me to slap myself and kneel down to apologize to you? Liam, it's not too late for you to slap yourself, kneel down and apologize to me."
"What did you say? You're really arrogant and conceited."
Liam gritted his teeth.
"Since you're so shameless, don't blame me for being ruthless."
After saying that, Liam said to the security guard,
"Go, call Hugo and the others over. Today I'll let this Mark kid witness my true strength."
"Yes, sir," the security guard responded, then turned around and left. Not long after, 7 or 8 bodyguards in black suits and dark sunglasses came up. The one in the lead was called Hugo Anders, a mercenary who had been working for the Lambs for a few years. He'd been living a life of violence, and he was an expert in mixed martial arts. He'd never lost a match, so he was known as the king of underground cage fighting. Although Liam came from an old mixed martial arts family and was fit and skilled himself, he preferred to let Hugo handle Mark. Hugo and the others were bodyguards that the Lamb family paid a high salary to hire and train, so it would be a waste of time if he didn't use them. Seeing these 7 or 8 extraordinary bodyguards, the other people at the auction sucked in a cold breath of air. Anyone who was familiar with the Lamb family knew that these bodyguards of theirs weren't just for show, especially the one named Hugo, who was a first-class fighter. Hank sneered and said to Mark, "Man, you are done for." Liam had always been proud of himself because this grand hotel belonged to his family. This was totally his territory, and now his proud bodyguards were here with him. So at this moment, he was like a mighty king, looking down on Mark from above.
Mark, I'll give you one last chance. As long as you slap yourself and kneel down to apologize to me, I can consider sparing you, Liam said.
Mark said, "You can consider sparing me, but I don't intend to spare you now." Liam's face turned ashen. He waved his hand at Hugo and the others.
Go, cripple one of his hands, and cripple one of his legs. I want him carried out of here.
Hugo and the others surrounded Mark. The people in the crowd unconsciously took a few steps back, murmuring in low voices.
"Looks like Mr. Lamb is serious today. This guy definitely won't be able to escape."
"What a pity. This guy offended Liam. He must have a death wish."
"This kid didn't steal anything at all. That was just Liam making up a reason to teach him a lesson."
The atmosphere in the auction hall immediately became tense as Hugo and the others prepared to attack Mark. But then, a woman's voice was heard above the mutterings of the crowd.
"Let's see who dares to touch a hair on Mr. Johnson's head."
Everyone turned to look at the doorway. A young woman who looked like she was in her 20s stood there. She was dressed simply and had a ponytail, but her presence was extraordinary. It was none other than Marcy. Marcy walked into the room with light steps and stood there looking steadily at Liam.
"Liam, you have been getting more and more arrogant lately. How dare you bother Mr. Johnson?"
Marcy's voice was not loud, but it carried an indescribable authority. She was truly a hero among women. Seeing Marcy, Liam's expression immediately changed, and he actually laughed. He said to Marcy,
Marcy, you're here. I called you, but you said you wouldn't participate in the auction. Why did you come? You should have said something so that I could go down and welcome you.
Liam's expression softened. He walked up to Marcy with a smile on his face. It was a gentle smile.
Marcy, I haven't seen you recently. You've lost weight, haven't you? I called you, but you never picked up. I went to your house to look for you, but you weren't there. Are you still angry with me?
"Shut up."
Marcy's expression turned cold as she interrupted Liam's words. Then she pointed at the 7 or 8 bodyguards in black who were still surrounding Mark and said, "Liam, tell your lackeys to get lost and stop talking nonsense." A trace of embarrassment appeared on Liam's face. After all, Marcy didn't give him any respect in front of so many people. But he didn't show any anger on the surface. He just turned his head to Hugo and the others and said,
Why are you still standing here? Didn't you hear Marcy? All of you get the hell out of here.
Hugo and the others immediately retreated to the side of the room. Liam's face once again had a smile on it as he said to Marcy,
Marcy, I've told them to scram. You must not be angry. You can participate in the auction. I'm very happy you're here. Don't worry, I'll definitely...
Before Liam could finish his words, Marcy had already walked toward Mark. She didn't even pay attention to Liam.
"Mr. Johnson, are you all right?"
Marcy asked. Mark waved his hand and said lightly, "I'm fine. They can't do anything to me." Mark looked behind Marcy and found that she was alone, so he asked, "Marcy, didn't you go and pick up your grandfather? Where is he?" Marcy smiled and explained,
"My grandfather never likes to participate in this kind of auction. He has already taken a special elevator to the VIP room. After the auction ends, Grandpa will gather with some other big shots, and they will exchange some treasures."
"Oh, so that's how it is," Mark said. Liam, who was watching from the side, was stunned. What was going on? This Mark fellow actually knew Marcy, and it seemed like the two of them were very familiar with each other. Impossible. Wasn't this fellow just a useless son-in-law? Without a family to speak of and not on the same level as Marcy. How did the two of them know each other? Furthermore, Marcy spoke respectfully to him. That was the high and mighty Miss Green. She had always been cold and distant to Liam, but now she was so respectful to this Mark guy. Her tone even carried a trace of gentleness, which made Liam very uncomfortable. He cursed. Damn it, Marcy had always been indifferent to him, but she was so respectful and gentle to this useless son-in-law. This was really bad. Hank saw this scene, and he remembered the last time he was at Pacific Coast Karaoke. This Marcy Green came and personally asked Julius to apologize to Mark. Marcy and Mark's relationship was not simple. While Mark and Marcy were talking, Hank quietly touched Liam. Then he said in a low voice, "Liam, I almost forgot. This Mark guy isn't just a useless son-in-law. Last time at Pacific Coast Karaoke, Marcy came personally and ordered Julius to apologize to him in front of so many people."
She actually did that?
Liam asked. He knew that the Green family had power over Julius, but he couldn't believe that she would make Julius look small in front of someone as useless as Mark. It didn't make sense.
That's right. The relationship between Mark and Marcy isn't simple. Look at how she spoke to him. She was so polite and respectful, and she's so gentle. Do you think that the two of them are—
No, damn it.
Liam's anger immediately rose. He cursed at Hank and said,
Marcy's not stupid. She doesn't even fancy me, so how could she take a fancy to this guy? It's impossible.
Liam suppressed his unhappiness, but he still had a smile on his face as he asked,
Marcy, do you know this idiot?
Marcy glared at him fiercely.
Liam, who do you think you are? Speak with respect. Even Grandpa addresses Mr. Johnson respectfully.
Liam blushed. Marcy was scolding him in front of so many people, and he was the heir of the Lamb family after all. It was extremely embarrassing.
Liam, are you slandering Mr. Johnson for stealing your things? Didn't you say that Mr. Johnson sneaked in? Now let me tell you, Mr. Johnson was respectfully invited here by me, Marcy. Do you still want to chase him out? Do you still want to cripple one of his hands?
Marcy said with a stern voice. This kind of imposing manner made even men afraid when they saw it.
Marcy, what is your relationship with this guy? Why are you protecting him like this?
Liam asked with some dissatisfaction.
Mr. Johnson is a friend of mine, and also a friend of the entire Green family. If you dare to disrespect him again, don't blame me for falling out with you.
Liam could no longer suppress his anger. He raised his voice and said,
Marcy, I'm your fiancé, and you want to argue with me for the sake of this loser? He's your friend, so you protect him just like that against me?
When he heard the word fiancé, Mark was stunned. Fiancé? Liam was Marcy's fiancé? This made Mark feel a little surprised. With Marcy's personality and judgment, how could she possibly take a fancy to a spoiled young idiot like Liam? Although they appeared to be well matched on the surface, Marcy handled things calmly. She was upright and kind, and her temperament was extraordinary. Looking at Liam again, other than the fact that he was rich, he didn't have much going for him. He only knew how to be arrogant and pushy all day long. He was used to bullying good people. The two of them were not from the same world at all. After hearing Liam's words, Marcy suddenly shouted loudly, "You better shut up!" After that, her entire body suddenly trembled, and her face turned ashen. There was a kind of humiliation and anger in her expression. Yes, she was Liam's fiancée. This was the biggest humiliation and also the biggest helplessness in her life. She would rather die than admit this fact, but no matter what, she couldn't deny it. Seeing Marcy's angry look, Liam knew he'd got the upper hand and became complacent again. He raised his chin and his voice and said,
What's wrong, Marcy? Did I say something wrong? You are my fiancé. We got engaged 2 years ago, remember? This is a fact that cannot be changed, so I hope you recognize it. Even if this Mark guy is your friend, I'm still your fiancé. You should know who is closer and who is more distant. So how can you shed all pretenses of cordiality with your fiancé for the sake of some stranger? Are you confused?
Marcy gritted her teeth and said, "Shut up. Don't mention the word fiancé again." Marcy's body trembled even more intensely. Seeing Marcy like this, Mark was stunned once again. Why did she have such an intense reaction? It seemed like she had never truly accepted Liam as her fiancé. Otherwise, why would she be so angry when this matter was brought up? Since she didn't accept it, why would she get engaged to Liam? This didn't seem like Marcy's personality. Could it be that she was forced? But the Green family was the biggest family in California, and she was the princess of the Green family. Who could force her to do something she didn't want to do?
What's wrong, Marcy? Why can't we mention the word fiancé? I am your fiancé.
Liam put on a fake smile and deliberately went against Marcy, deliberately exposing her scars.
Marcy, even if I didn't mention it, everyone in California knows that you are my fiancé. Furthermore, in another month, the two of us will be married. This is an indisputable fact.
You... Marcy was so angry that she couldn't speak. Her fists were clenched tightly, and many people could even hear the cracking sound of her knuckles. Liam, say one more word and I'll kill you, Marcy said angrily. Not only was Liam not frightened by her words, but he was also even more proud of himself. He became even more unscrupulous. He laughed loudly and said,
"You want to kill me? Marcy, this must be a big joke, right? Don't tell me you want to kill your husband. Perhaps you really want to kill me in your heart. But you should know the consequences. If you kill me on impulse, then can you, Marcy, live? Will your Green family be able to survive? Marcy, you can ignore your own life and death, but you can't ignore the entire Green family. That is a big family, and there are over 100 people in it. They are all your family members."
Liam's words were full of threats. Sure enough, Liam's words worked. Marcy clenched her fists even harder, but in the end, she slowly relaxed. She really wanted to kill Liam, but she didn't dare to. She was not afraid of death, but she couldn't bear the consequences of implicating the entire Green family. Seeing Marcy's angry and helpless look, Liam became more and more pleased with himself.
Marcy, it doesn't matter if you don't accept me now. One day I will make you accept me, and I'll even make you fall in love with me.
Disgusting. Marcy spat out the word fiercely. Liam's smile became insidious. He looked at Marcy. Then he looked at Mark and said,
"Marcy, you're not willing to accept me. Why? It couldn't be because of this guy, could it? Could it be that the two of you are having an affair? But you're my fiancé, and this guy is someone's husband, so—"
Before Liam could finish his sentence, a sharp sound was heard. Then he felt a burning pain on his face. He looked at Marcy, shocked that she would actually hit him, only to find that it wasn't her. The person who slapped him was not Marcy, but Mark. Mark had slapped Liam's face hard, catching Liam off guard. The slap was hard enough that Liam saw stars. Liam covered his face and stepped back. Then he looked at Mark angrily.
"You dare to hit me?"
"I did," Mark said coldly. When Liam's bodyguards saw their master being hit, they immediately wanted to step forward. But just as they moved, Mark said loudly, "Stop right there. If you dare to take a step forward, I'll send Liam to meet his maker." Hugo and the others were stunned and couldn't help but stop in their tracks. But at this moment, a trace of a wicked smile flashed across the corner of Mark's mouth. Then he suddenly turned around and lifted one of his feet, kicking out fiercely toward Hugo and the others. A series of movements that were quick as lightning and smooth as flowing water. With miserable cries, Hugo and the others fell to the ground. Hugo and the others were professional bodyguards and had even competed in underground fights before. They were not just petty gangsters on the street. They didn't expect that they would be knocked down by Mark so quickly. Liam's expression changed, but he was still unconvinced. He shouted and cursed before he clenched his fists and rushed toward Mark. The Grand Hotel was his family's turf. If Liam was beaten up on his territory, he'd never live it down. So he couldn't let Mark get away with this. He just wanted to knock Mark to the ground as fast as he could. But just as he rushed over, Mark kicked out with his leg. It was 1 microsecond faster than Liam's fist and knocked Liam to the ground. Then, without any hesitation, Mark took a step forward and grabbed Liam's neck. The people in the auction house screamed out, and their faces revealed expressions of fear. Liam's throat was constricted by Mark, and he couldn't breathe. Mark stared into his eyes and said, word by word, "Marcy may have some weakness for you, and doesn't dare to attack you, but I'm not afraid. Liam, you have provoked me again and again. Do you really think I'll not dare to do anything to you?" After saying this, Mark freed his other hand and slapped Liam's face. Blood immediately flowed from the corner of Liam's mouth. Mark said, "You just said that you want me to slap myself and kneel down to apologize to you. Now let me show you who exactly slaps whom. Who should kneel down and apologize to whom." Another crisp slap landed on Liam's face. Liam was stunned by the slap. At this moment, he was extremely furious. He growled out that he wanted to kill Mark, but he couldn't struggle because his neck was trapped in Mark's hand.
"You really dare to attack me? The son of the Lamb family? This is our territory."
Before Liam could finish his clamoring, he received another hard slap on his face. Mark revealed a cold smile. "You still want me to slap myself? Who do you think you are?" 3 more slaps landed on Liam's face. "Are you convinced yet?" Mark asked.
"Who the hell are you? You deserve to—"
Another 3 slaps landed on Liam's face, stopping him from cursing. Liam was breathing heavily. His face was swollen, and he no longer had the same imposing manner as before. Those who were watching the auction gasped to themselves. They had never thought that the arrogant and domineering young Liam Lamb would be beaten up by someone. Liam's arrogance was famous in L.A. No one dared to provoke him. Even Marcy, who had a soft spot for him, didn't dare to do anything to him. So Liam had been running amok in L.A. all these years. He didn't expect that he would be defeated by Mark today. No, strictly speaking, this was the second time he had lost to Mark. The last time was at LAU, when he was almost killed by Mark using the Fire Thunder Palm. In the end, Liam's father forced him to slap himself and kneel down in apology to Mark. Today, in the Grand Hotel, on their own territory, he was once again being violently abused by Mark. Liam's humiliation couldn't be described in words. He wanted to die. Liam spat at Mark and received another slap. "Let me ask you, are you convinced yet?" Mark asked.
"You damn—"
Liam spluttered. Mark slapped him again. "I only asked if you are ready to submit or not." Liam shook his head and glared.
"You actually dare to treat me like this? Wait till my father—"
Another slap landed across Liam's cheek. Mark growled. "Cut the crap. I'm only asking if you submit or not."
"I don't."
Liam growled back. Mark slapped him again. "You can't accept it, eh? Then I'll beat you until you do." The sound of slapping could be heard through the entire auction hall. Everyone broke out in a cold sweat. If this continued, would Liam be beaten to death? Marcy felt great watching Liam being abused by Mark. If it wasn't for the fact that there were so many people here, she would have covered her mouth and laughed. Only she knew that she was engaged to Liam because she had no other choice. To her, it was a huge humiliation and grievance, but she couldn't do anything about it. If it wasn't for the fact that she was concerned for the safety of the entire Green family, she would have killed Liam a long time ago. But now, Mark had done what she didn't dare to do. Mark had taught Liam a lesson, which was a relief for her. Just as Liam was being abused by Mark, a voice suddenly rang out.
"Stop right now."
It was a very strict voice that carried an indescribably domineering tone. Everyone was shocked by it. They turned their heads and looked at the source of the voice. They saw an old man, who was about 60 to 70 years old. His hair and beard were white, but he seemed very healthy and hearty, more like a young man than an old one. Marcy was the first to recover when she saw this old man. Anson Cutter? Then everyone was also stunned. He was the #1 fighting expert in California. Cutter was revered in the mixed martial arts world. His reputation was very high. He was like a celebrity because of his skill, and because he was once the leader of the Octopole Group. Although martial arts use in the open had declined as the country grew safer, the Octopole Group was still shining with glory. The members of the group had built 8 extreme dojos in every city. They used the name of bodybuilding to recruit many members. So the Octopole Group was large and respected by all the other underground organizations. Anson Cutter was the most outstanding one among the members of all these groups. Under his leadership, the Octopole Group had become incredibly prosperous. A few years ago, an expert in Thai boxing and a ninja expert from out of state joined forces to challenge the Octopole Group. Anson Cutter fought them alone. He defeated them both. From then on, his name was known to everyone. Not only did this bring glory to the Octopole Group, but it also brought glory to the whole of LA. So even those who didn't know much about the martial arts world knew the name of Anson Cutter. Seeing Cutter's arrival, Liam, who had been beaten to the point of semi-consciousness, suddenly had a glimmer of hope. Because Cutter was his master, he could be considered Cutter's disciple or student. Forcibly holding back his pain, he shouted at Cutter in a hoarse voice,
"Master, save me."
As for Hank, while Mark was madly beating Liam, Hank retreated into the crowd. When he saw Liam's master, Cutter, appear, he regained his confidence. Hank hurriedly walked out of the crowd and shouted at him, "Master Cutter, you're finally here. Quickly, save Liam. He's going to be beaten to death by this Mark guy." Cutter's steps were sure and steady. He walked toward them deliberately, with the aura of a powerful warrior from head to toe. When he saw his disciple, Liam, being held by the neck by a young man who was fiercely slapping him, his eyes narrowed. The surrounding people also began to murmur in low voices. "Anson Cutter is here. This time the situation is going to change. I reckon that young man called Mark is in big trouble." "That's right. This man called Mark is really powerful. He even dared to hit Liam. But with Cutter's arrival, his good days have come to an end. Everyone knows that Cutter is extremely protective. Anyone who injures a member of the Octopole Group..."
"Who do you think is more powerful, this Mark guy or Master Cutter?"
"Is there even a need to ask? Of course it's Cutter. He was the #1 fighting expert in California. Even the Thai and ninja fighters are no match for him, let alone this Mark guy. He is really good at fighting, but he's no match for Anson Cutter."
"That's right. I bet that this Mark kid won't be able to withstand a single hit from Cutter."
"Yup, this Mark guy is going to suffer. How do you think Cutter will deal with him? He has brutally abused Liam. Given Cutter's protective nature, I think he's going to cripple Mark."
Marcy's heart fell when she heard the discussions and saw Cutter's extraordinary persona. She took a step forward and said to Mark, "Mr. Johnson, I'm afraid that the situation isn't good. Anson Cutter is here. I'm afraid that he won't let this matter rest. You should leave now. I'll take care of this." At this moment, Mark was still in the same position as before. One hand was holding Liam's neck, and the other had just finished slapping him. After hearing Marcy's words, Mark said, "Cutter is here? Good. I was just thinking about meeting this so-called #1 expert in LA and California." Marcy's expression immediately changed. "No, please don't. Mr. Johnson, you might not know this, but Cutter's reputation is not just a rumor. He once defeated both the Thai boxing champion and the ninja fighting champion with just 3 punches. He is very famous." "So you think I can't beat him, is that it?" Mark said. Marcy said, "Mr. Johnson, I know you're powerful, but you're still young. As for Cutter, he's been practicing martial arts since he was a child.
Now decades have passed. He has indeed been trained to be an expert in fighting. So, to be cautious, it is better for you to leave. You don't want to have a direct confrontation with him, because you will lose. Mark said, Lose? If someone loses, it won't be me. All right, Marcy, you don't have to say any more. I know what to do. Marcy suddenly didn't know what to say. Could it be that Mark really wasn't afraid? Or was he just arrogant and thought that he could beat Cutter? Impossible. It was impossible for Mark to beat Cutter. Marcy secretly sighed. This Mr. Johnson was a bit too confident. If he really fought with Cutter, it would be too late for him to leave after suffering such a loss. What should she do? Hank was very excited now. He'd seen the legendary fighting expert of California, Anson Cutter, arrive. Cutter could kill that idiot with one punch. Hank walked up to Cutter and said urgently, This Mark guy is arrogant and conceited. He's got no respect for anyone, not even you. He even dared to hit Liam. You must not forgive him. You must cripple him. No, kill him.
So noisy.
Cutter raised his hand and sent Hank flying with a slap. After that, Cutter narrowed his eyes and looked at Mark.
Hurry up and let go of my student.
Cutter's voice wasn't loud, but it was extremely scary. Mark smiled mockingly. You want your student, do you? Fine, I'll give him to you. After saying that, Mark lifted Liam up and threw him toward Cutter like he was throwing a piece of trash. Liam shouted as he flew through the air. Cutter's eyes turned cold. Then he raised his hand and caught Liam in an instant. Only now did Liam feel relieved. He thought that Mark guy was going to throw him to his death. At this moment, Liam's face was swollen up. He was almost unrecognizable. Blood was flowing from the corner of his mouth. A few of his teeth had been broken. He kneeled down in front of his master with a thump and said like a spoiled child, Don't let this guy go. Cutter looked at his student, who was in a sorry state. He then looked at Mark, who was standing proudly in front of him, and said, You dared to hit him. Do you know who he is? He's my student. I'm the one who hit him, and so what if he's your student? Mark said. What an arrogant kid. Cutter's eyes turned cold again. He raised his hand and touched his beard. Young man, it is good to have some skills, but if you're too arrogant and conceited, you're courting death. Liam here is my student, and because of that, no one has ever dared to touch him. You're the first, so you have to pay the price. When I was younger, I would never have wasted my breath on you. I would have just killed you. But I have experienced many years and many changes, and I don't like killing anymore. So, how about this? Willing to kneel down and admit your mistake, and break your own legs. I'm willing to spare your life. As soon as these words were spoken, the surrounding people began murmuring in low voices. Cutter intends to spare this guy. I can't believe it. Everyone knows that Cutter is famous for being protective of his own people. If anyone ever hurt one of his students, he would always make that person pay with his life. But today, he actually intends to spare this Mark guy. Did you hear what Cutter said? He's old and doesn't like killing anymore. That is why he has decided to spare that Mark guy's life. Mark's lucky. Even though he has to break his own legs, he will still keep his life. There was even a kind-hearted person in the crowd who reminded Mark, Young man, Cutter said that he will spare your life. What are you waiting for? Quickly kneel down and apologize to Cutter and break your own legs. At least you can keep your life. Marcy's expression had changed. She wanted Mark's life spared, but she didn't want him to break his legs. If that happened, he would be crippled for the rest of his life. Mark was invited by her to attend the auction after all. Now that something like this had happened, she couldn't just watch as Mark broke both of his legs under Cutter's coercion. Thinking of this, Marcy prepared to step forward and plead for Mark. She even had a plan. If begging for forgiveness was useless, then she would call her grandfather as soon as possible. She would ask her grandfather to come out and say a few good words on Mark's behalf. After all, her grandfather was one of the top figures in California. Cutter would definitely listen to her grandfather. But just as Marcy took a step forward and was about to speak, Mark suddenly raised his head and laughed. Everyone was stunned. Holy cow, even at this time, when he must have been scared silly, this guy could still laugh? A trace of anger appeared on Cutter's face. He said sternly,
"What are you laughing at?"
Only then did Mark stop laughing. He looked at Cutter and said,
"You just said you wanted me to kneel down and apologize and break my own legs so you can spare my life?"
Cutter said,
"That's right. You're young and hot-blooded. It is not unforgivable for you to make a mistake, so I'll give you a chance. As long as you kneel down and apologize and break your own legs, I'll let you live."
Mark laughed loudly. "That's crap, Cutter. Others may be terrified of you, but I'm not. It's not too late for you to kneel down and apologize to me and break your own legs," Mark said. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's expressions changed. Damn it, this kid must be crazy. He dared to speak such arrogant words at this moment. Wasn't he courting death? Marcy also panicked. What was wrong with Mr. Johnson? At this time, how could he still say such tough words? If he really angered Cutter, then he would lose his life here today. Even if she asked her grandfather to come over and say something nice about Mark, he wouldn't be able to save his life if he behaved like this. Cutter never thought that this young man in front of him would be so arrogant. His eyes narrowed as he stared at Mark for a few dozen seconds. After that, he said,
"Good, you're arrogant enough. You remind me of me when I was young. But if you want to be arrogant, you better have what it takes to back it up. Otherwise, you're courting death."
"Cut the crap." Mark waved his hand impatiently. "Are you really the #1 fighter in California? You're an old man. Even if you are an expert, I think you're too weak to win. Come, fight me. Show me what you've got, old man. Let's see if you deserve to be called the #1 fighter in California. Or is your reputation the lie that I think it is?" These words made Cutter furious. Ever since he got the title of the #1 fighter in California, no one had dared to speak to him in such a way. Everyone showed him respect and never dared to anger him. But this guy in front of him showed no respect at all. Mark seemed to be deliberately trying to provoke Cutter. He was too arrogant, and he would definitely pay a heavy price for it. "Come and fight me. But let me say this first. If you can't beat me, it means that your reputation as a master fighter is just a lie. You're just fishing for fame. Of all the types of people I hate people who fish for fame the most. If that's the case, not only will I break your legs, but I'll also cripple you for all your martial arts. I'll turn you from Anson Cutter, the master fighter, to Anson Dribbler, the master jellyfish." Mark taunted.
You.
Cutter was so angry that he almost couldn't speak. He gathered himself and said,
"You will soon know the consequences of saying those words, and regret them."
After saying that, Cutter stood there steadily on both of his feet. He moved both of his hands and settled into a fighting stance. Energy rippled across his body.
"Wait,"
Mark shouted, and then said,
"There are so many people here. If I beat you to death, I'll probably be blackmailed."
Cutter chuckled.
"If I really am beaten to death by you, then I'll admit my bad luck. No one will be able to make trouble with you."
Mark nodded. "All right, then I can kill you with ease."
"Kid, if I defeat you with one slap, you will have to admit your bad luck as well. No one is allowed to seek revenge in any way."
"All right." Mark slapped his fist in his palm. Cutter looked around at the crowd.
"It's settled then. Everyone has heard what we said just now. We can use the people here as witnesses. No matter who dies, no one is allowed to seek revenge."
Marcy was so anxious that cold sweat broke out on her forehead. She took a step forward and said to Mark, "Mr. Johnson, don't be impulsive. Please, I'll call Grandpa now."
No need. Mark actually laughed out loud. No worries. I don't take this old man seriously. Don't worry. The one who will be carried out later will definitely be him. Mark and Anson Cutter were ready to fight. As he faced his opponent, Mark felt heat flowing back and forth in his body. As the heat gathered and flowed, it made Mark's entire body heat up more and more. Ever since he had cultivated the triple flame fire controlling technique, Mark's body had undergone a tremendous change. For example, when he chanted the triple flame fire controlling spell, his palm could shoot fire. But now, things seemed to be even better. The heat in his body was getting stronger and stronger. He couldn't help but chant the triple flame fire controlling technique spell. He felt the heat in his body slowly gathering toward one place, which was his right palm. When all the heat had gathered in his right palm, Mark shouted, "Fire Thunder Palm!" Cutter, who was rushing toward him, struck his own palm at Mark and shouted, "I'll let you have a taste of my Octopole Group's Universe Palm. Die now!" Mark's Fire Thunder Palm collided with Cutter's Universe Palm, bringing together two hugely powerful forces. When the two palms collided, the outcome of the battle wasn't decided immediately. But after a few seconds, Cutter suddenly felt that something wasn't right, because he felt a great heat coming from Mark's palm. It went straight into his palm. The heat was like a ball of fire, lighting him up in an instant. Cutter felt a gut-wrenching pain coming from his palm, and this burning sensation instantly turned into a huge force. In the next second, Cutter was suddenly sent flying by this tremendous force. Everyone saw a figure fly backward, hit the wall behind him with a bang, and then fall to the ground. Everyone thought that Cutter only needed one move to kill Mark, so when someone was sent flying, everyone instinctively thought that it was definitely Mark. But a moment later, when they saw that it was Cutter who had flown through the air, everyone was shocked. It can't be. The one who was sent flying was actually Cutter, not that Mark kid? How is this possible? Someone couldn't help but exclaim. They couldn't believe it, and they almost couldn't accept that the person who was sent flying was Cutter. This was completely beyond their expectations. After Mark sent Cutter flying, he slowly reduced the scorching force in his palm. He slowly controlled the force in his body, and at the same time withdrew his hand. He looked at Cutter, who was lying on the floor at the base of the wall, and a smile appeared on his face. It seemed like all the hard work he'd put in recently had not been in vain. The enhancement system of the triple flame fire controlling technique had advanced once again. Now, not only could his hands and heart breathe fire, but he could also control the scorching power in his body. Furthermore, he could use this power in his palms. He looked at Cutter again. After falling to the ground, he used all the strength in his body to struggle and straighten half of his body. But he immediately felt that something was wrong, because the energy in his body had been messed up, and this energy was slowly dissipating. In addition, he felt that his internal organs had been damaged. After a moment, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face instantly turned pale. After his eyes focused, they slowly widened. At that moment, Cutter knew that he was going to die. He struggled to turn his head to look at Mark. His pupils were filled with shock. His lips moved as he slowly spat out a sentence.
Profound Group. Fire Thunder Palm. This is impossible.
Then his head tilted, and half of his body, which had just straightened up, fell to the ground. With a thud, he fell to the ground like a sack of dirt. There was no sound after that.